Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Reflux Revolution podcast. My name is Molly Pelletier, registered dietitian and specialist in reflux, GERD, LPR, digestive health issues. Today, we have an amazing special guest, Jackie Emher, who is one of our incredible expert dietitians here at FLORA Nutrition, is joining us. And some of you may know Jackie from the FLORA app. You may know her from one-on-one sessions. Lovely to have you here, Jackie. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Do you want to start by just giving a little bit of background in your story with digestive health issues, just for those of the listeners that may not be familiar with you yet?
Absolutely. So I'm Jackie. I'm one of the dietitians here at FLORA, and I decided to become a dietitian for I feel like a myriad of reasons, like many of us have. But I had my own journey with digestive health issues. I dealt with GI issues for a couple of years, and then eventually was diagnosed with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which many of the listeners might be familiar with if they were diagnosed with it themselves as well. But it was a little tricky back in I think 2017, 2016 kind of timing when I first started dealing with that. It was a newer condition that wasn't really fully understood at that time. So took a while to kind of help my providers understand that I did need to get tested for this. And so I ended up going through quite a couple treatments there. And I definitely feel like it was kind of a journey of figuring out root causes. I also became a dietitian for history of disordered eating and was really passionate about helping others feel comfortable in their relationship with food and guiding them in their digestive symptoms and relief there. So kind of a couple of reasons, but I'm very happy to be doing what I'm doing every day.
Super inspiring. I know a lot of our listeners can relate to that need to advocate for testing and kind of the journey it takes to even get the diagnosis. So super happy you're here. And when I reached out to you about recording a podcast, we settled on this topic that I think is so important because it's a topic that comes up with our clients a lot, just naturally. When you're dealing with GERD, reflux, digestive health issues, SIBO, it's really hard to stay consistent. And it's really easy to lose motivation and kind of feel like, is this ever going to get better? And so today in this episode, what we're going to be covering is the emotional side of healing, of mindset, consistency. Sort of this episode is the one to come back to when you feel like giving up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole goal, because we know what it's both like. We both know what that's like to be at kind of that like rock bottom point, and sometimes it can be really hard to pick yourself up from it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that I've been there in my own GERD healing journey, and the very first episode of this podcast actually is sort of like the moment that was the biggest catalyst for my healing was really the mindset piece, because I remember there was a point in when I was dealing with GERD and reflux and my symptoms that I just felt like I was never going to get better. Like I couldn't visualize that future. And it's sort of a negative feedback loop, because when you are stuck in visualizing yourself sick in the future, or if you're stuck in like, I'm never going to get better type negative thinking, that is so dysregulating for your nervous system. So like it really is sort of a spiral, and that negative self-talk, that dysregulation, it worsens digestive symptoms.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's like the leading thing, which is so tough because it really is that loop. And I feel like once you're stuck in there, it can be hard to break out of it, as much as I feel like in the moment, you know that it's impacting you and you understand it, but it is hard to kind of shift out of it. And I definitely feel like I was at that moment with SIBO as well. Many times I went through 2 rounds of antibiotics within kind of that 6-month period. And I didn't have the miracle moment that a lot of people sometimes have with antibiotics where they feel a lot better. I never had that. I feel like I just kept getting worse. And ultimately, it really was that root cause that we all talk about, that I feel like everyone's searching for. But I realized that root cause was the uncovering of kind of the journey with SIBO, and realizing that once I was crying over not being able to eat certain foods, I was like, okay, there needs to be a shift in relationship with food and consistent nutrition that I know we talk about with clients a lot, of that being a really big contributor there.
Yeah. And let us know, listeners, like if you want to hear, maybe we should do an episode on just your journey, because like that would be so interesting to hear. And definitely want to dive more into that. But I definitely can relate to what you're saying of like, okay, you know, we've arrived in this moment, digestive issues have maybe worsened our mental health, and anxiety levels are high. And also what this can cause too is like you get so far away from normal eating. Like
Yeah.
nutrition gets so confusing that like you're just overthinking everything you're eating, and then all of a sudden you're just not eating like a normal person, and then that worsens your digestive issues too. And so
Yeah.
there's just a whole lot of, confusion that can happen when our mindset isn't strong. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just really important that kind of we lay that foundation.
Absolutely. And I feel like this is something you say as well, but I always tell everyone that I don't blame anyone for searching for the magic pill or for the solution, because when you're at that point, that's what you're searching for. So if you end up trying sea moss gel because you want to figure it out, don't blame yourself that you got to that point, because we understand how overwhelming it can be when you're there.
Exactly. Like there's absolutely no judgment with this because we've both been there. It's just like one of the biggest things that I'll tell my clients is like, just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. So if you get this thought of like, maybe I won't get better, or maybe it'll always be this way. Like I always say, like, just because you feel this way now doesn't mean you will forever. And it's also likely that things will not stay the same. It's more likely things
Yeah.
will not stay the same. And it's really important that we remember, like, if you get a scary thought, an intrusive thought about your health or something like that, like a strategy that Dr. Julia King, who's an amazing psychologist, teaches our group program is like, name 3 true things in that moment. So like,
Yeah.
my endoscopy showed this, like something true where it's like, okay, I can separate my story of what's happening, my fears about the future versus what's actually true in this moment. And,
Mhm.
and that can sometimes help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's very similar. I love doing that. And I feel like it's so helpful to kind of help us to kind of get out of that fight or flight mode for a second and
Mhm.
kind of take a step back. And that can take a lot of practice to
Mhm.
be able to address those thoughts. Sometimes in the beginning, it's not always perfect that we address every thought. Sometimes it gets us in the beginning and then we say, okay, that didn't feel too good when I got really stressed out. So maybe next time I do try doing the naming 3 things that Molly told me in our session and see how that goes for me. Or maybe making a list of wins that have happened over the course of the beginning of your healing journey, where maybe we forget about them a little bit. Sometimes when we're looking forward, it's hard to see behind us a little bit. So kind of saying, oh, I tried a new food last week and it went really well. And now I have this new recipe that I tried from the FLORA app that went really well for me. And those moments, they're small, but they're all steps leading to more progress. And I do feel like sometimes being able to reflect on that, either through like a journaling session or just kind of having that list on your phone, can really help you to see, kind of get out of that cloud of the thoughts a little bit.
For sure. For sure. One of the things that my coach, actually, my High Rocks coach, taught me
Yeah.
is the gap versus the gain. And the gap is like what we want, what our goals are for a lot of our clients. It's like being able to eat foods without symptoms, being able to not have to worry about, getting symptoms in certain scenarios. And so that's like the gap, what we're aiming for. And then the gain is what we've achieved. So these wins of, I did reintroduce this food and it went well, or my symptoms are actually not as severe as they used to be, or this one symptom I have, I no longer experience, even though I do have these other ones. Like there's progress that is often happening, but our human brain lives
Mhm.
in the gap. We live in the gap.
Yeah.
We are always focused on what do we need to achieve. And I'm so guilty of this. Like I definitely can,
Yeah.
can live in that gap and like always be looking at the goals, always be very goal oriented. And it's a lot of our job to really help our clients be like, hey, like in our last session, your symptoms were a 6 out of 10. You're telling me today they're like a 2 out of 10. And sometimes it's hard to see that progress when there's still other things we
Yeah.
want to achieve, but the progress is happening. And it's really important to notice where, even if it's just anxiety levels going down, even if symptoms haven't yet changed, maybe your habits are getting better. So like sometimes we have to notice that progress to keep momentum.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a really, really important point to kind of be able to look back on. And even reduction in severity is a huge win. Even if it's on 100% gone, that is showing us actively that healing is happening inside your body. And I do feel like I've talked with this with my parents and with friends too. I feel like we live in a very instant society sometimes where we're so used to things arriving really early and being able to instantly look things up and have access to things. And the body's so different than that. You know, it's a lot slower. Things tend to take a lot more like watering of the seed and kind of putting in the habits for a long time. And I know we always talk about this, but everyone struggles with consistency. So if there is a week where things don't go as well, that's okay. We get back on the horse and we keep going. But the body is definitely not instant healing, which I think can sometimes be a hard thing to come to terms with a little bit as well.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, the body is not Amazon Prime. Like we expect these overnight results. And I think that's also people see these like amazing wins and testimonials on our website and they think it happens kind of overnight, but these people have put in consistency, effort, months of effort there. And I'm the first one to say like consistency is the hardest part. Like I have seen a dietitian, I have a coach,
Yeah.
like it's hard to be consistent, but that is the secret sauce. And so like if you're struggling with mindset, with consistency, getting support from whoever it might be, a therapist, a dietitian, like do whatever you
Mhm.
need to do to hold yourself accountable and stay consistent, because
Yeah.
that is so important that you just try these strategies long enough to really see a difference. And so, and also to be able to stay consistent when things are tough, because there are going
Yeah.
to be like tough moments in a healing journey where maybe it feels like you took a step back. Like healing is so up and down. It's not a
Mhm.
perfect journey. You could have a really great week and then maybe something happens and you feel like all your progress is lost and you want to give up. And that's not true at all. Your progress is not lost. It's not a linear journey. It just isn't. And so we have to just keep going. And exactly what you're saying of like, we're looking at a reduction in severity, frequency, duration, or intensity. So, maybe there are still symptoms happening, but they're going away faster or they're not
Yeah.
lasting as long. And that's
Mhm.
really important to look for because it's not going to be like overnight fix.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And I do think that the biggest thing that I feel like I'm speaking for all the Flora dietitians is we believe in your healing so much, which is why we're so excited for you every session, even when it's hard, even when it's good, because we know it will happen.
Yeah.
We're watching the path unfold with you. So the path sometimes can take a little bit longer to unfold than we would like it to, but it is still unfolding. And I almost kind of say we're walking out of the forest that is digestive issues. Every day you're taking a step to get out of there. And so we're doing it with you. So you're not alone in it. And I've had clients say, you believe in me more than I believe. And I was like, well, my goal is that you eventually do believe to the level that I believe in you as well.
That's so true. And it's because we've seen people go through this. We've seen hundreds of people
Mhm.
go through this journey. So it's like, it's really hard sometimes when you're doing this on your own because you haven't watched these people walk this journey, but we have so many times. So
Yeah.
yeah, this definitely reminds me of one of my clients who, like really was close to giving up. Like she,
Mhm.
was just like, maybe it's just not in the cards that I'll feel better. Like I've been trying, I think we had been working together for like 4 months, which actually isn't a super long time. Like I know it felt like a long time for her, but she had been dealing with reflux for over a decade. And so I really
Mhm.
had a reminder, like this has been going on for over a decade, like over 10 years. So like expecting that you would have no symptoms is not really realistic in like a 4-month time period. So I do have
Yeah.
like a full YouTube video on how long it takes to heal, but I think it's so important that we're just patient with our bodies and remember, like, not to say it's going to take 10 years to feel better. Like I'd say on average, clients are working with us for about 4 to 6 months, but if it's been going on for such a long time, like we have to be patient and keep going
Yeah.
and also know that, watching gradual progress is still progress. It's still progress.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I feel like that connects with like something I talk about a lot too, and I know you do as well, of you can still live your life in the healing stage too. We don't have to put everything on pause. Things might be modified a little bit, but that doesn't mean that we have to put all of our goals on hold, all of our dreams on hold because we're in this healing phase. And I feel like sometimes when I say that, people are like, but I want to do this and this. And we might be adapting things a little bit, absolutely, to support it, but it doesn't mean that we have to kind of just be in this sad state of this healing phase right now.
That is so true. And I love reminding clients of that, because if we isolate and like let go of certain aspects of our life, that is also not great for our nervous system and our mental health. Like if we let our life, I remember when I was dealing with reflux, I felt like my life was so small and I was really kind of only thinking about the health issue, and it felt like it sort of like took over my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so by inviting other aspects of your life in, family, friends, hobbies, interests, passions, goals, like it's so important because it can help you see the bigger picture. And also motivation, like motivation to get better is like, oh, I want to compete in high rocks. I want to do all of these things. And so like that can help with the motivation to keep going of like, I am going to meal prep this week and show up for myself because I want to do these larger goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And like everything adds up. And I remember being at like total rock bottom. Like I ate like a clove of garlic accidentally while I was like out to dinner with family on like vacation, and was like on the floor, like so nauseous. And like, but then the next day I was like, it kind of felt like the whole vacation was messed up because I had had that one experience. And if I could go back, and if anyone's going through this right now, if I could go back in that moment, I would be like, you're uncomfortable. It's okay to feel uncomfortable and like to feel upset that this happened. But like, instead of, going into this mode of like the vacation is ruined, say, okay, is there anything I can do in this moment to help myself feel comfortable right now? Maybe I could have gone on like a walk after. Maybe I could have had, now that we have lovely things like Fodzyme and things like that now that we can utilize, maybe I could have done a couple different like nervous system support activities to help myself feel more comfortable in that moment, instead of kind of going to this really negative mindset. So I feel like it also is like letting yourself be upset about these moments, but then pivoting after you've had that moment to like, how can I support myself here?
Yeah, I love that. Like your feelings are definitely valid. And then it's just about like, okay, what tools can I use in this scenario? And one of, I think, my favorite tools for when I'm feeling stuck and for our clients when they're feeling stuck is journaling. And there's the journaling on the FLORA app, the Motivation for Healing journaling practice is a really great one. That's a great one. I think there's also there's a meditation for when you're in a flare with some really good mantras. So those are some tools that I might lean on in this scenario.
Absolutely. And the reflex hypnotherapy too. I feel like that's been quite helpful for everyone. So no, there's so many tools on there. And I feel like, whether it's downloading them or saving them just so you have access to them, I think it's good to have them as like a quick toolbox, things that you're kind of utilizing.
Yeah. And like if you hear a mantra or a phrase that like really resonates with you of like, my body is on my team, or my body is sending me messages, or I'm listening and learning, like any mantras that resonate, like putting Post-it notes around, like, or, making it your phone background, like expose yourself to these reminders, because our brain is going to be constantly trying to go back to the gap and back to the way it's used to thinking. So like exposing yourself frequently to these types of messages, I think is really important, because we're trying to build new pathways in the brain.
Absolutely. I do like the idea of like having the visual cues. And I always say too, if like we're having a day where like we really are struggling to be positive, in the very least, compassion. Even if we can't be positive one day and we're really struggling to kind of get into that mindset and it's almost making us feel more agitated, at least going in with compassion, saying, okay, I'm uncomfortable, I'm upset in this moment. How can I at least show myself some compassion in this moment? What can I do to support myself? And maybe it's one of the mantras of like, this will pass, and that's the mantra for the day there as well.
Yeah, that the practice of self-compassion is so important. And I feel like it's a skill that we're never taught in school. It's just like how to practice self-compassion to ourselves. And it's so valuable. And honestly, like it's one of those skills that if you can learn it during this journey, it will serve you for the rest of your life. And you might look back and be like, oh, I'm so glad that happened, because now I have such a different relationship with myself. And It's just like learning how to speak to yourself like you would a friend, learning how to be that person for yourself when you need to allow yourself to rest or, take something off your plate or not push yourself to the breaking point, not have to be productive all the time. Like those are really big lessons that people often learn in their reflux healing journey that they didn't expect to.
Yeah, I find that there's many more lessons than just your healing, kind of like how you're saying. It's a lot more than that. So I do feel like it is like it really is a holistic healing journey in every sense of the word. I feel like the difference that I know that you've mentioned that I feel like so many people have said that's the difference is the mindset piece. I feel like it really is the missing piece. Obviously, we're dietitians, we focus on nutrition, but if we can do all the nutrition in the world and do all the different food changes in the world, and if we're feeling so stressed and our mindset is so negative or kind of dragging us down, it's not going to make the biggest difference there.
Yeah, it's so foundational. It's just as important as the nutrition piece. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really important that we just, stay focused on compassion, trust your body's timeline, like, and protecting that. Like if you need to log off social media, if you need to like set up boundaries with certain things that might be really challenging that mindset, then that's also important because there's so much on social media that can sometimes, can be great, but also can be not that helpful.
Yeah, I always tell my clients I'm a big fan of the not interested button on social media. Hold down, say you're not interested, follow accounts that have nothing to do with health. Follow a gardening account, follow just like anything that you feel like brings you joy. Just kind of diversify your feed a little bit so that it's not entirely health related. I feel like that in itself can declutter a lot of information and like stress that was coming in as well.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Well, I think this was a
Yeah.
lot of great tools for people. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. This was super helpful. And I hope for those listening, like, that you're not alone, you're not behind. Come back to this episode anytime that you need a reminder. And there is so much progress to be made. There's so much to support you out there. We just have to, weed out the things we don't need and stay focused on the things we do.
Absolutely. I completely echo that. And I'm really, really hoping this is helpful for everyone.
Thanks, Jackie. It was so fun having you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Reflux Revolution podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend who is struggling with reflux or working on their digestive health. It really helps support our channel. Be sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, like this video, and let us know what you want to see on the podcast next. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.